Imagine that you're a gamer. Imagine that you're a gamer in the 90s who's been playing games like Mario 64 or Ocarina of Time, the Zelda game, or just like the classic Doom or stuff like that. Old games. No offense. But these games have been around for a while, and then your thirst for something new is starting to rise up. You're thinking, man, I really wish I could experience some new kind of game that no one's ever played before. Something awesome, something cool, something that makes me feel like I'm doing a kickflip over a pit of fire with like 5 cigarettes in my mouth and 2 more up my nose. Something just badass. And then Call of Duty comes along as the 2000s start to rise up, and you get to like shoot people in the head, and you see the blood everywhere, and the realistic graphics, and the guns, and then it's awesome. And then more games start to follow along with this type of trend, where everything looks realistic and much more graphic. Oh yeah, this is a new era. But soon afterwards, it doesn't take very long for every other company to basically follow along in the same exact train. You're getting one epic game after another. Even Mario and like Zelda start to follow along with this like edgy, realistic graphics and all that stuff. You start seeing games like Super Mario Galaxy and Skyward Sword and all these things happening that just look so realistic and are completely different from what these games originally were. But you don't care, it's awesome. You love it and you enjoy it and you continue to consume it because it's awesome and it's new and you've never seen it before. But then as 20 years go by, you start to realize, man, every game is doing this. Even like playing soccer on my Xbox looks like hyper realistic. Do I really need hyper realistic graphics to play soccer? Can't I just do that outside? No, that's not it. I think I miss retro games. There was this weird charm to retro games that you didn't really realize was there before until it was gone. You didn't know what you had until it went missing. Something about those really low pixels that you can basically count on the screen, and that running into a wall and accidentally getting stuck and breaking the entire game. Something about it felt special, but you don't know what it was. Hey Josh, what does this have to do with Anna Dream Barbecue? I'm there. I'm sorry. Please wait your turn. Anna Dream Barbecue isn't exactly a game with like an immersive gameplay that gives you massive pumps of dopamine into your veins, or has like this crazy gameplay loop that you can constantly play non-stop. But I'm pretty sure that is the point. But anyways, so many things try to capture constantly your attention with giving you massive dopamine boosts, especially games, to the point that it just really does feel overwhelming, and kind of like every game is aiming for that like target to be addictive. And well, yeah, that's actually kind of obvious because that's kind of the point. That's kind of game dev's job. But what Anna Dream Barbecue does differently is the fact that it doesn't go for any gameplay loops at all. In fact, the whole game, well, even though it is only one chapter, is just one experience. And the funny thing is that this game isn't even a visual novel either. It does have a series of decisions you can make that change the gameplay, or at least the end outcome of the story, but it still isn't exactly a visual novel, at least in my opinion. The only way I can explain it is like as if you were kind of just dropped as a kid. Let me rephrase that. As if you were placed in a sandbox as a kid, and then there's a bunch of different weird toys that like you have no idea what they do, but you're just allowed to experiment and play with them and just try to make sense of what they mean exactly. Because that's basically what we're constantly trying to do as humans. Our brains are just hardwired to try to make sense of what is in front of us. That's why every time you see something that looks like a face, your brain sees a face. Even if it's not a face, even if it's like an outlet on the wall, your brain sees a face because it tries to make sense of what's going on. And fortunately, in a Dream Barbecue, there is a lot of things that do not make sense. So more than anything, this game is purely driven by imagination. And I don't exactly just mean the game dev's imagination, because of course they had a lot of imagination to be able to create this like crazy and uncomprehendable world. But what I'm referring to right now is the player's imagination. Since there are so many unanswered things in a Dream Barbecue, it allows the player to just make a lot of assumptions about what is going on, and even narratives to things that just are not explained in the game at all. There are so many little hidden details that could expand into a whole nother world of questions that just isn't explored enough in the game, but that's exactly what allows the player to experiment with what ideas could possibly be going on behind the main story. Even the main story itself isn't linear at all or makes sense. So the player is allowed to make some crazy assumptions about the entire game as a whole. The entire game is basically just abstract art. Like, you know those scenes in movies when there's just like abstract art on like a painting in a museum, and then like, I don't know, the person is like, what do you think this means? And then that's the thing about abstract art. Yeah, you know, you're supposed to, it's whatever it is to you. Like, I don't know, maybe you're looking at nothing, but whatever your brain makes up of that painting is what the painting means to you. And that's basically what this whole game is. It's a giant abstract painting. But more than anything, this game is nostalgic. And here's why. If you ever grew up playing Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, then chances are this game probably gave you major flashbacks. At least it really did for me. So at first glance, you can obviously see that a lot of the game's style is in a low poly, just textures plastered over polygons and shapes. And this is a really similar style to games like Majora's Mask. That, and also the 2D animation that is really well mixed within the game, and I think creates a really unique experience that you don't really see too often in games. Also, of course, the actual atmosphere of the game of Ena Dream Barbecue is very similar, very similar to Majora's Mask, because everything just feels so mysterious and dark and gloomy. If you've never played Majora's Mask, I suggest you should give it a try, especially if you've tried Ena Dream Barbecue. The two are very similar and a really cool experience. And I think that this game is a major throwback to Majora's Mask, but it isn't just the atmosphere and art style that relate to games like Majora's Mask or just Zelda in general. Invisible walls actually play a major part in the relation between this game and Majora's Mask. And the reason I actually love invisible walls is because I think that we've been very spoiled by open world games. And I know you probably love open world games, and I like them, but the thing is, they don't draw me towards the game as much as enclosed games like these. So the reason games were so enclosed before was because they didn't have the technology to be as open or as worldly as they are now. But even in games like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, there is still an edge of the map. And personally, when playing Breath of the Wild, I was definitely curious to find out what was around in this massive world, but for some reason, nothing made me as curious as reaching the edge of the map. Whenever I saw those giant canyons, I couldn't help but think, what goes beyond those things, you know? Like just that endless fog. I know there's nothing back there, and you know, if you know the way that games are made, chances are there genuinely is nothing back there. But for some reason, I just can't help but imagine what could be back there, beyond Hyrule. And this is exactly what games like Ena Dream Barbecue and Majora's Mask create in such a smaller and more limited space. Everything is left to pure speculation, and nothing can actually be explored, yet there are so many areas in the game that make you question what is going on behind that wall. And I think that this is a great way to make a game. I think that the fact that I'm not allowed to go over there or explore that area makes my imagination go even more wild and question what's going on over there. And Ena Dream Barbecue does this a lot throughout the game. And honestly, this is probably what the game mostly survives off of, because speculation leads to fanfics and basically headcanons and all that stuff. This is where that stuff comes from. When things are left open-ended and with so many questions asked, people are almost dared to just make a fanfic or just any source of media that expands upon the little world that they have created. This is why during the more early 2000s, before 2025, there were just so many videos that had lore secrets or the secret behind this door in video game gameplays and stuff like that. And I could not help but click on every single one of those videos. Okay, of course not every single video, but you know what I mean. I loved watching videos that just had, even if it wasn't true or was completely made up or scripted, it was just fun seeing what people could come up with. Their mysterious headcanons or creepypastas that they put behind video games and areas that just couldn't be explored. So even with Enna Dream Barbecue being a small chapter and just a small, quick, linear story that only is an hour long, there's still so much world and exploring you can do in these little tight spaces. And that's fun. Like, this has not been done in a while, or maybe it has been done, but I can't really think of a modern comparison to this situation. If there is another game out there that gives this similar experience, please let me know, because I have not seen or heard of a game that gives this experience in a while. So Enna Dream Barbecue isn't cool only because it has low poly features that people have been really missing lately, because there's been a lot of games actually coming out with low poly features, like the art style is purposely low poly. Games like Lethal Company or Buckshot Roulette, they've all been using this low poly feature because clearly people miss low poly. But the reason Enna Dream Barbecue stands out in these low poly modern games is, yeah, all this other nostalgic and just different stuff that hasn't come up in games, at least for me, in kind of a while. And I love it. And I can't wait to see the next chapters, and I can't wait to see what's gonna happen next. Keep putting games out like this. This is great. But yeah, that's basically all I had to say. Halfway through making this video, I came to really not like the video. I don't really know why. I guess it just kind of feels like it's not really my style of video, or the style of videos that I want to really approach. I don't think it's quite there yet. But anyways, yeah, I don't know. I just didn't feel so great making this video, like coming towards the end of it. Yeah, and my attention towards it kind of like started to drop. But since I already had so much work put into it, so many hours, I was just like, I'm just gonna get it done and post it. Anyways, thank you for watching. Sorry for that random lore drop. If you like Josh, if you like this, please subscribe and do stuff. And thank you. Okay, bye.